Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Slipstream Entrepreneurs Podcast. I am your host, Rich Wharton, and as per usual, my co-host, the wonderful Hannah Brooks. Hannah,
Hello, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you. I tried cold water therapy this morning, and it's left its mark.
Oh, yes. Tell us more about cold water therapy and how you found it.
Painful. It's that initial breath. I can't get past the initial breath of shock. So, any tips out there? Happy to take them because, yeah,
I'm not going to say I'm an expert in cold water therapy, but I'm experienced. I enjoy it, and especially in the morning. But yeah, that's it's a hard one to get over
it
first up.
is.
And I'm absolutely delighted to announce our special guest today because this is going to be an absolutely wonderful podcast. We have got an entrepreneur through and through, someone who is involved in so many different businesses, and I cannot wait to hear his story from start to finish. But someone who is absolutely smashing life right now. We are joined by Rahul Mehta. Rahul, welcome.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
No, we're absolutely delighted, and the thing is, obviously, when I asked you, I was quite nervous asking you because it's obviously a new podcast. It's something we're growing, and it's growing week on week, which is really exciting for us. But obviously, to have someone of your caliber on the podcast already is just incredible for us, and I'm sure you're going to provide so much value to our listeners, whether they're into motorsport or not. We've got a whole mix of backgrounds, but
Mm.
the value that you're potentially going to share will be absolutely incredible. So thank you so much.
No, I mean, I look forward to being on the podcast and sharing some insights. Really.
No, incredible. So first things first, tell us about you. Tell us about your story, where you started, how you got into business, and obviously the empire that you've built now.
Yeah, indeed. So, I mean, I have quite a few different businesses, and when I never thought I would have various different sports related businesses. That was just never in my mind, to be honest. And at university, I mean, I went to Loughborough University. Obviously, it's a very sports orientated university, and studying economics and politics. I always knew that I would go into finance, really. And sports and or sports related businesses, just I never thought I would do something in that space. But after graduating from university, went down the traditional path of finance, worked in a bank, and then into a hedge fund, and then really after that, decided to start our own business, and again, still on the finance side, and do different things from investments into real estate assets, hospitality assets, and then it just happened that one of my good friends from university, his cousin was a football player, and transferred from Barcelona to Tottenham Hotspur, a guy called Giovanni dos Santos, and well, we were asked to go and have a dinner with him. And we had the dinner in London, and next he said after the dinner, "Oh, I'd like to go for dinner again another day." And the next time we came, he had brought four of his teammates with him from Tottenham. And you start chatting to them, and then you get to know them a bit more and have more dinners and things like this, and they start to trust you a bit more. And they start asking, "Oh, can we want to try and get more sponsorship deals. We want to potentially invest in real estate. We want to maybe we're looking at investment in a hospitality asset and things like that. Can you help us?" And at that point, I was like, "Well, certain things, yes, we can maybe help you with on the real estate side, hospitality, but sponsorship deals. I've never done a sponsorship deal at that time." And then I realized, you know what? There's a lot of contacts that we have, and why don't we, you know, actually form a sports related company? And so what happened was I then created Obsidian Sports Management about 8 years ago now, and with a number of ex Premier League footballers or pro footballers. So when we started the company, there's myself. We also had uh, another guy, Tab, who's a sports lawyer and looks after really the African market because he's from Cameroon originally. Um, and then we have two others who were, well, one in finance, doesn't really know much about sports, but it's good to have him as a partner because he was just in finance. And then we had a number of different ex-players, so the likes of George Boateng, who came on with us, ex Middlesbrough player, ex Aston Villa, played for the Dutch national team, and more recently has been the assistant manager to the Ghana national team. So him and we had JJ Akocha and his brother Emmanuel, and we had another chap, Remco, who used to play for Ajax, and then we started forging some other relationships with other ex-players like Pedro Mendes and Ramon Vega and things who would help us on a more of a consultancy basis and things like this. And the idea was with Obsidian that we create it to effectively do deals in the football space, and that could be sponsorship deals, bring a brand, do a deal with either a specific football athlete or a football club in the UK, Europe, or wherever it might be. And we started speaking to different brands and seeing which ones we could potentially do deals with. And you do the first deal, and then it gives you the momentum to do the next deal and find more brand sponsors, and you just build up the network really. And then we started. Well, I started getting involved into other sports. So motor racing, for instance. I started cultivating quite a lot of contacts within the motor racing industry, from Formula One teams to Formula E, a couple of other racing series as well, like MotoGP, and a little bit in Le Mans as well. But the main focus was really Formula One, and then Formula E afterwards. So in the Formula One space, we then ended up doing a number of different deals with different teams, from Force India to Lotus to Haas, um, you know, and working on a couple of deals at the moment with a few current teams. So again, you do a deal, people start seeing that, and then they come to you, oh, can you bring another brand or things like this. Then we started doing it with different racing drivers, and then in Formula E I did a very nice deal with a at that time, because the team doesn't exist anymore, was a team called DS Tech Cheetah, and the sponsor that we brought, FSEC, which is a Portuguese company that does electric vehicle charging. They had never done a sponsorship deal before, and we convinced them that you should do a sponsorship deal with DS Tech Cheetah, and it turned out to be fantastic for them because the team won the constructors championship, they won the drivers championship. So 3 out of the 5 years they were doing extremely well, and for FSEC it was a great sponsorship because after 6 months, they won a contract with a big automotive manufacturer to provide electric vehicle charging points, and effectively it paid for the sponsorship for the next 3 years. Actually, so it went very well. And then FSEC, after the 3 years, they decided to renew it, but not to be on the car anymore because they had got enough exposure, but they still wanted to be around with the team in the press conferences and things like this, and on the driver overall. So we just did a slightly different, smaller deal for them to renew for a further 2 years, and it did very well. So it's great when you do a brand partnership and it goes very well. Not all of them do, unfortunately. So yeah, I mean, and then it's when you start being in the world of motor racing and things, again you start creating all these new contacts, and again, with either drivers or with manufacturers or with different sponsors, and it's just really, I would say, sports business is all about building a good network of with people. So yeah, I mean, then after, I mean, outside of motorsports, then we started doing things with a lot in cricket with various different cricket players, cricket franchises. Again, bringing brands to do different sponsorship deals, and then also with some rugby players in the UK, and now with boxers and a few tennis players that we do things with as well. And so it's dwarfed from just being football focused to encompassing a lot of different sports. And but I mean, I would probably say at the moment, we do a lot in the football space, and we're doing a lot in motor racing as well now. So that was Obsidian, and then I had a number of other businesses in the sports world with other people as well. I mean, so we co-founded two companies with the ex-Manchester United player Dimitar Berbatov, King Football, which sells his merchandise line, and then Gravity Technologies, which will be launching a new app for celebrities and athletes to better monetize the content that they have on social media. And we're going to be launching that pretty soon, actually, end of April, with that one. And then, I mean, going back to the more motor racing theme, I then got involved in a company called Outdrive GP, where we get pro drivers, so F1, F2 drivers, and other racing drivers to compete against esports sim racing drivers. And we devised the concept to do these in live locations with a live audience. And we did our first event in Singapore around the Singapore Grand Prix, and we had the likes of Nico Hulkenberg compete, Pietro Fittipaldi, Brad Benavides, Bianca Bustamante, who now has been signed with McLaren and with under F1 Academy. And then we had two guys who were driving in Asia Le Mans series, and we partnered up with a sim racing team called Legion of Racers, and we effectively paired a pro driver with a sim racer, and they had to do a qualifying. They did the race, and had to do sort of like a pit stop, getting in and out of the simulator after the halfway mark, and they all drove the Singapore track, which made it nice, and yeah, it was pretty good, actually. And so now with Outdrive GP, we're now planning our next events for this year. So Singapore again, maybe Las Vegas, but Doha and Abu Dhabi, the last two races of the F1 calendar that we'll be activating at. And then really for 2025, it will be where we really then step up how many events that we do, and not necessarily in around Formula One, but it could be in Formula E races, could be in Le Mans races, could be in other racing series. Just why we did it with it around the F1 is obviously to get various F1 drivers or reserve drivers, let's say. So it's an interesting business, and the idea there is to build that up with the live events, to incorporate more streaming, to have different drivers compete, and different sim racing guys as well. The interesting thing is, after Singapore, Alex Albon's manager reached out to us. Alex wants to participate. We have various other pro drivers who've seen what we've been doing in Singapore, who've also reached out and said, "Look, we saw what you did. It looks pretty cool. We'd like to participate as well." So it's a nice thing to hear when that happens. So yeah, so that business, it's doing quite nicely at the moment, and as I said, we're just planning for 2024, and then furthermore in 2025 onwards, really. So
Wow. Yeah, just wow is the word that springs to mind. You're a busy man.
busy man, yes, yeah, quite busy. And then I mean, actually, I have a couple of other sports related businesses as well. I mean, one Sandwell Capital, where we look at investments into sports franchises, typically minority investments. And typically what we do is we identify an opportunity and then see, depending on how big the check size needs to be, then we bring in some other partners with us, and that could be other high net worth individuals or family offices or sports VCs, and effectively create a consortium and then make the investment. And we're looking at a deal in Formula E, in Formula One, a UK football club as well, and potentially an IPL cricket team as well. And so few different things, and so keeping busy on that side as well, on the M&A side of things.
Wow. Where do we start, Rich?
The biggest thing is, the first thing I picked up, Raoul, is that you pretty much said you created this from networking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just getting to know the right people. And can I just say, I'm so grateful to be in your network. We've had quite a few different conversations, and that it'll be hopefully an exciting future. And I've learned everything. Like, I've learned so much from having conversations with obviously yourself and other people that I potentially introduce you to. But how important has networking been in your whole journey?
If I have to give it any piece of advice to people, network, network, network. You never know who you're going to meet, and you might think to yourself, this person, what am I going to be able to do with them? Yeah, it might not be immediate, but you never know. 5, 10 years down the line, you might say, Rich, I'm glad I met you 10 years ago. I've got something we can work on now, and things like that. So you never know when. It's always good to just meet people. And as I said, don't dismiss if you can't do something with them straight away. Build on the relationship, keep the relationships. You never know where you'll do something with each other at some point. So it's always a good thing to keep in good contact with people.
Definitely. Wow. I mean, that's something that we do tell drivers, especially, is to build network and have lots of people that you know. And a few of them have said, actually, it's not what you know, sometimes it's who you know,
Yeah.
because it's true. It's, people can help you with skills and all sorts of things. And people often want to help you succeed. It's not just competing all the time. Sometimes actually people do like to help each other out. And whether that's just giving another contact or expanding that network, I think it's really crucial. Really crucial.
Well, yeah, I mean, Hannah, you're completely right. And people have to look at it. It's not just the monetary value. If someone's going to give you money, it's other things that they can do to enhance that. And if that is invaluable free advice on certain things or connections with others, you take it, because it's always good.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I think that's one of the biggest things that we talk about quite a lot, is that having genuine relationships. Like, again, I know a lot of people who want to network for the sake of networking, and LinkedIn, like, is obviously a really good place to connect with people. However, obviously there is that side of it where it seems like a business to business sort of connection. I mean, I see it all the time where people just click connect and there's no message that follows it up or anything. In your sort of experience, the use of social media to connect with people, what has been sort of the best approach to speak to people through the likes of like LinkedIn?
You know what? I think LinkedIn is very good because you can connect to a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, look, I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn. Some of them are just, I don't think are relevant at all. People trying to sell you leads and ads and God knows what. But, you filter them out. And then there's other people where you say, oh, actually, yeah, this will be someone good to connect with. Let's have a call or a coffee and meet with them and see where, the discussion goes and what you can do together. And as I said, look, I think people have to realize you might not be able to do something immediately, but it could be in the future, and that's why you should always keep these different relationships. But as I said, I think LinkedIn is a very good way of certainly connecting to people, and it does reach. If you put certain things on, different posts on LinkedIn, it does reach a big audience, and then people will either reach out to you, or you'll see that they've looked at particular post or read about it, and then you can connect with them. So yeah, LinkedIn certainly is very good, actually. um Outside of LinkedIn, you know Instagram, again, it depends, because it depends who you're trying to get to. If trying to get to a celebrity or things, you're not going to get a response, to be honest, because most of them will have social media teams who are looking at the content, and they just will not respond. So really, if you want connections there, you have to go through the right agencies who are representing the talent, or knowing the right people, really, who can connect you on that side.
Yeah, definitely. I think I just want to skip back a little bit to your time at university, or coming out of university, because from what I heard, you spotted opportunities and opportunities and opportunities, and you kind of just went for things, right? Would you say, obviously, it comes with risk when you take opportunities? So how do you, as an entrepreneur, balance risk and opportunity? Because I'm really intrigued to know that from my perspective.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, look, if you don't take risks, you're not going to, in my opinion, you're not going to get anywhere. So
Yeah,
there's always a risk in anything you do. Yeah, you know, setting up a company, it can be difficult. Especially when you have never done, like I said, we've never done a sponsorship deal in my life before. But you have to start somewhere, and if you can convince a brand that you're friendly with, that you have the connection with XYZ, and that by doing that brand deal, it's going to work out for the brand, for the athlete, or the sports franchise, then you've got to go for it, and that's my outlook. Go for it. If you don't try, you don't know if you're going to succeed or not, and you'll learn as well. Oh, okay, the deal didn't happen because of this point. You learn for the next time. Okay, we need to realize that last deal didn't happen because of XYZ. We'll know for the future that we've got to take that into account to make sure that a deal can be done and things like this. So I think it's always a learning curve, and I think you've got to put yourself out there and go, yeah, look, I'm going to take the risk. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and you move on. If it works, fantastic, and then you build on that.
yeah,
Really, I just say you don't get yourself down, and just look forward and just strive to do well.
yeah,
100%. I think that's a really, you've tied it back nicely to where I wanted to ask questions, because both Hannah and I are involved in sponsorship, especially in motorsport. I've actually been approached to do some other things in the musical arts, which would be quite interesting. It'll be a whole different change for me, which is going to be nice. But it's one of our biggest things. We came together through networking, through LinkedIn. It was actually through a new F1 Formula E entity that is trying to. You probably know of them, but it's. But the thing is, we came through from what they were doing, met each other, decided to have a podcast, and then actually both involved in sponsorships in different ways, and really wanted to take that on and provide a lot of value to people. Kind of Hannah just brought along the structure to my ideas as such, and she's got some absolutely wonderful ideas, and we started building from that. And obviously we're starting from fresh. I've had a few years within sponsorship. Hannah's had a few years within sponsorship in a different sort of space, and kind of come together and build this. But looking back of when you first started, you first got those few deals, and again, knowing Premier League footballers is ideal. That certainly helps. It opens a few doors, etc. But for someone starting out looking for sponsorship, or someone starting out their own business in trying to make sponsorship deals happen, what advice would you give yourself when you first started?
Yeah, what I would say is, see which brands that within your immediate circle that you are friendly with, because maybe you know the founder of the brand, or you know someone who can connect you with the founder, or you know someone within a particular brand organization. Just reach out to them. Yeah, and go with the prospect of, let's build a partnership together. And don't I what I would say is, you see a lot of brands get put off by, oh, you have to pay X amount, or and then they say, no, we don't have the budget, or that person, we're not really into, it could be motor racing, we prefer football instead. But you can convince a lot of brands and say to them, look, yes, you're saying football, but actually for your brand it might actually be better to do a deal with a motor racing driver or a motor racing team, because you're going to get this exposure which will be better for your brand. If you start educating them, then they should be able to hopefully take on that and then think to themselves, actually, yes, we didn't think of it like that. Why don't we explore doing something in the motor racing world instead? I tell you, when we did the deal with FSEC, as I said, they had never done a sponsorship in their life. And I said to them, do this because you're going to get exposure to automotive manufacturers, and you have electric vehicle charging as a division. It makes a lot of sense that you need to do a deal in Formula E, and you're going to be around the races where you can network with other OEMs, and you start, then it's up to you if you can make a deal with them or not. They managed to make a deal, and as I said, it paid back for the sponsorship with just one deal. So, the exposure that they got, it just happened that the team was doing extremely well. So, they didn't know that. We didn't know that when we did the deal, that they were going to win the championship and constructors and things like this. It was great, and they had a Portuguese driver as well, and so they could leverage the hell out of that as well. But yeah, I mean, I always say, you approach it, as I said, see within your inner network which brands or people who are working with brands that you could probably tap into. And I say, yeah, let's try and build a partnership. It doesn't matter at the start how small that partnership is, because you can always grow it later. That's the thing. Okay, look, in motorsports, we all know that it's you you have to bring in money, otherwise you don't get into racing series and things like this. It's difficult. It is a difficult business to bring in the sponsors, especially when you're starting out, and to convince someone to back you, it is not easy. And not just in motorsports, but in life in general and in other sports. But I always say, start with something small and you gradually build it up, because you never know. A big company, if they back you with a small amount and then they see how you're progressing, they will give you more and more later on. And so, yeah, I think it's always good about building partnerships, and you build them for the long term, and then you grow on those partnerships.
Well, it's great advice. I think I always like to think when I'm talking to brands, especially, I try and find out what they actually want to achieve. Like what was their key demographic, asking questions about what they want, and then seeing with your experience where you think would be a really great way of solving that issue for them. Because I think sometimes people don't actually know where to go, or they'll go to places where they think they're already engaging an audience that already knows who they are, and it's like, well, how can you diverse that? How can you bring more value to that for them? And sometimes it's just about having that trust and relationship between you and the brand. And like you say, I think it's great advice to go and speak to your inner network already and just seeing what kind of questions they have.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're very right. Look, in today's world, any brand doing a sponsorship, the first thing they're going to ask is, what's my return on this?
Yeah.
How am I going to get the exposure that I need? And where is the B2B play here as well? And, obviously it all varies depending on what the brand does and what sort of markets they're operating in. But, sometimes, as I say, some brands think, oh, we have to do a deal in the football space because we're going to reach a larger audience. And you say to yourself, well, yes, you might have a larger audience, but that larger audience doesn't is not going to be the one who's actually going to buy your product. So it
Mm.
doesn't make sense to do it in that field. Why don't you target a different field, which it could be, let's say, motor racing, whereby you've got a bit more of a targeted, audience, but that audience, if they do like your product, are more likely to buy it and probably buy it in bigger quantities.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really educating a lot of brands on where they should, put their marketing dollars.
Yeah.
And brands certainly, I would say, do need educating, because a lot of them don't know, they don't always know that there are better alternatives, I would say. Or you do a deal whereby you can spread them across various different sports, and they get different exposures by doing that. And so it all. I mean, look, again, it depends on what the brand is and what their marketing budget is and what they're effectively wanting to get out of it. But it's a key thing that you have to speak to a brand and say, yeah, what are you looking to get out of this? How can we maximize it? And if you do this deal, this is where we can help elevate that brand with you to do other deals with other companies or consumers, and things like that.
Yeah. Great.
Massive advice. Just one thing I'd noticed. Obviously, your background is quite diverse. You've been involved in lots of different things. Like you said, real estate is a big one. I know you've got a lot of high end bars, restaurants, nightclubs. There's a whole wide range. Obviously, the sports businesses, whole wide range of stuff that you've been involved with. Obviously, a lot of advice people get coming through school, university, etc., is to focus, niche down onto something. Whereas you've obviously gone the other way and gone, actually, I've got a whole portfolio of different things. What advice would you give to someone starting out, or looking to build a portfolio of businesses? How has that benefited you so well?
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, I mean, I have, look, on the hospitality side, we have some bars and restaurants in central London. My bar Coupette is voted in the best 50 bars in the world. And we did deals to take the Toy Room nightclub from London to bring it to India. We took another one, Cozy Box, which was in the Cannes Film Festival as a Mediterranean restaurant. We took it into India, and we're taking various other different hospitality brands and things. What I always look now, whereby we can connect different businesses that maybe I'm involved in with other businesses that I'm involved in. So if we talk about hospitality, because we have the bars and some restaurant investments, it means that I can start doing other things. So, there's a number of celebrity endorsed alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages out there. We get approached, can you stock it in your bar or your restaurants, or can you help us with distribution? So, that's a new business angle that we can start looking at, really. And, there's some very interesting products that are endorsed, and some of them not endorsed by a particular athlete or celebrity. And we're always open to working on these sort of deals as well, because there's some excellent products out there. um I mean, we actually have a collaboration with a US company called Built by Void, and they are building different businesses and products with athletes and celebrities, you could say. So, I mean, they did a couple of deals with NFL players, Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham Jr. And then, well, I mean, we're bringing various other talents to them to build, a non-alcoholic beer, for instance, a rum business, a hair care product with a Premier League footballer. And, we're also, looking at other ideas with them to develop different products with different celebrities, really. So then I look at that. Okay, if we do this rum brand, or if we do this non-alcoholic beer, I can say, okay, we've got instant distribution into the bars, restaurants that I have already, and then with the wider network, that I have in the hospitality industry that we can tap into, and then potentially get it into maybe supermarkets and things like this. So I always now look at different ways where we can complement with different businesses and what we can do, really.
There we go. It's like opportunities again, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
spotting opportunities.
And then it goes back to the point of, again, networking. Again, you don't know where that network is going to lead to you. Maybe you start a business somewhere. Yeah, I mean, look, Rich, you asked the question. For most people, yeah, you're going to focus on one business, and you want to, build that up and make it successful. Yeah, in my case, I have a number of different businesses that I'm involved in. But the other thing that you need to have is good partners with you who can, I'm personally, I don't run the bars day to day, so I don't have that involvement. I get involved in I'm an investor, I'm a shareholder, I get involved in maybe certain other parts of the business, but day to day running of it, I don't do that on the hospitality side. I have my partners who do that. So you need to have good partners with you, I would say, if you're doing these sort of things, so that it allows you to concentrate on certain things and they do the other things.
So interesting hearing this, and my brain's gone into overdrive really because I'm just thinking of different. I've done a lot of working with drivers, and then reaching out to my network of finding actually who's going to match up with that, who aligns with that. Started them, finding, then talking to those people, the business owners, and finding out what their challenges are or what they need to help them grow, and then finding the solution, and then bringing it back to my driver. But my thing is, hearing from what you're saying is actually, not necessarily starting off with just the driver. Go and find the businesses, work with them, find out actually what they need, and then you've got a whole array of different things or places you can go. And it may be that it may be in racing, or it may be in a completely different sport, but then you've got options to, rather than just going, no, I'm working with one driver and that's me. You've then got a load of different options going, right, actually, now let's just be that middle person and find out actually what's going to work really well for you. Let's get you into this place rather than. So I think I've taken a lot of lessons from this. It's been incredible, and I'm very much I want to grow an agency. I want to grow a business, and both Hannah and I are doing a lot of education stuff at the moment, especially with drivers to provide this information. But actually, our bread and butter is building those relationships to generate partnerships. And I think obviously we've got to be able to show that, to be able to build the trust for drivers to trust in us to teach them. But that's the thing, is even me, like, I learn every day, and I openly admit that I learn every day, and every day is a school day. And I love the fact I get that. But it's then just going, right, okay, what's next? How am I going to better myself to then improve my work and improve relationships and get results for other people?
Well, I think, Rich, you made a very good point there. Look, you should always think that you're still learning, and we don't know it all, and we still have to keep evolving and keep learning, and that's a key point there.
No, absolutely. And I think as well, look, I mean, we've had numerous conversations, and what I've picked up from you is, one, you're not afraid to get involved in different things. You're not afraid to have those conversations. You're not afraid to explore what potential opportunities they are, and actually you've probably got a fairly good idea of whether or not that is something that you want to be involved with and push forward with. And I think for me, having that attitude of just like, you know what, let's see what can happen. Because, like, I mean, especially when I reached out to you on LinkedIn, there was no reason for you to necessarily contact me. You've got your own business, a sports marketing business, much bigger than what I'm doing at this moment in time. And okay, I'm a long way behind the journey of where you've gone, but you didn't necessarily have to give me that time of day. All of a sudden you have, and there are opportunities potentially, but the value that you're now providing is incredible for us. I just think, like, having that open mindset, and seeing what's potentially out there is just so vital.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, Rick, I'm one of these people who, as I said, it comes down to networking. You need to connect with a lot of people, and you see where what you can do with people. And as I said, if you can't do something immediately, doesn't matter. It might be something in the future you do together, or you make a partnership with someone. you know, they introduce you to someone, and you do a deal with that person. They've introduced you, and it's all because it's come from that connection that you've made, before. So, you know, I think it's always good. Plus, I think, Rich, what you're putting out there on the LinkedIn is very interesting. It's nice content, actually. And also, I have this thing whereby I also like to help people in the sense of, if I can give any advice or mentorship, you could say, to people starting out, then I'm very open to doing that as well. So people always need some help and advice, and if I can give something, it doesn't matter how little, but if I can give something, well, then and it helps, then great.
I need to take you out for dinner, Raoul. That's what I need to do. Is
I always like a nice restaurant.
yeah. No, unbelievable. No, I mean, firstly, can I just say thank you so much for your time? I have got so much value for. I mean, to be honest, I know everyone who listens is probably going to take some great value from this, but me especially, and I'm sure Hannah has as well. I've taken unbelievable value. I mean, I'll probably jump on this call and speak to Hannah for the rest of the day, just say like, right, what are we going to do next? Like, this is amazing. So thank you so much for the insights, and it's great to have you in my network and be able to talk to you regularly and learn from you. I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm definitely taking away. But before we wrap this up, Raoul, got one final question that we ask everyone, and that is if you could spend an hour with someone, whether they're alive or dead right now, who would it be and why?
Yeah, difficult question. I was toying between Enzo Ferrari and Ayrton Senna, but I'm going to go for Senna. And I think it's because, what an incredible driver he was. And I would like to spend the hour with him, just understanding how he prepares for the races, what goes through his mindset when he was in the car, and wanting to win the Formula One championships, and obviously at a time where you don't have the safety regulations that we do today, and it was a completely different time of an era of racing, and also aerodynamics and things like this on the car just didn't exist what they do today. So it will be really fascinating to spend an hour with Senna, and get into his mind and his mindset. So that's the person I would want to spend 1 hour with.
Yeah, what a cracking person to spend an hour with.
Be sensational. Yeah. No, well, thank you so much, Raoul. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. Really, really grateful for you jumping on this podcast and one helping us out. In again, I'm sure it will have some massive reach with your network. But just before we finish up, if someone wanted to contact you, have that conversation with you, where would be the best place to find you?
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, or yeah, or through the business website, wherever. I mean, look, maybe LinkedIn, send me a DM, and I'll respond.
No, perfect.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll put your LinkedIn and stuff in the description so people can easily reach out to you. But Raoul, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure the listeners of the Slipstream Entrepreneurs podcast have taken so much value. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, guys.